But there was another incident this week which was interesting because the Greens have had a very good week, and we'll come to that in a moment. But there was perhaps a bit of a misstep with the Commonwealth Ombudsman being seen to script some question for the Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young. Let's take a look at it.
How else does the Ombudsman get to put forward on the public record what he's working on, his concerns, in that really important process of Senate estimates, unless someone has asked him to appear?
The Australian Greens were highly condemnatory of a particular coalition senator who spoke with a witness prior to a Senate estimates hearing. That was 2 years ago, and Senator Brown set out all the standards that should apply. Clearly, all the standards that Senator Brown and the Greens said should apply to coalition senators do not apply to the Australian Green senators.
Now, there are a couple of issues here, but one of them is clearly for the Ombudsman, and I know for certain that there are members of government who are outraged by this, and in fact members of the Ombudsman's own agency who are disturbed by this and want him to consider his position.
Yeah, it's a terrible controversy for someone called an Ombudsman to be in, where they're meant to be independent and overseeing sort of independence and ethics. And so I think the mistake that the Ombudsman made is not to want to be represented at the committee, not to be keen to put the fact to the committee that they're not funded enough for the increased traffic through the detention centres, for instance, but the fact that he chose one single party to try and get that information out. He would have been much better served to have, I don't know how you request or you get called before the committee, but to provide all parties with the Ombudsman's position that there is not enough funding, they're in dire straits, they can't do the job properly, and then trust those questioners to ask the questions. It would seem straightforward.
There are avenues for the Ombudsman to present the committee with a statement. Let's face it. He could even write an article for the newspaper, and the pages, all newspapers will be open to him.
I'm not sure of that.
Oh, not your paper? OK.
I'm not sure that an Ombudsman can do that.
Well, if he's independent, then he can. Then he can. He can outline matters of his concern. But for the Ombudsman to get into bed with the Greens and to get into bed with Hanson-Young, and having listened to that hypocritical excuse for this, I really have to question how bright she is.
Look, this should not have happened, and I can't myself see how the Ombudsman survives it. But on the other hand, let's not pretend that there isn't a lot of lobbying to members of Parliament about being called before an estimates committee and the questions that can be asked.
And also the politicians themselves provide the questioners the questions to ask them.
That's right.
That's
going
clear.
on all the time. I just don't think an Ombudsman should be involved in that process.
All right, it was a difficult moment for the Greens, but you would have to say one of the big winners emerging from this week are the Greens. No matter what you think of their policies, Piers, they have come out of this much better than the Labor Party. They have two things that they wanted. They've got a carbon tax in place, moving to a carbon price, and they also have onshore processing.
You know, I'd agree with you. It has been a big week for them, but it may well be a
Pyrrhic victories, do you think?
A Pyrrhic. Thank you, Dave.
Now, look, I'm here to help.
I was thinking,
I'm glad you're a
poison.
It's good to have one on that.
You know, poison, chalice, all this sort of stuff. Because
Judas kisses.
Judas kisses.
I think Pyrrhic victory is best.
Yeah, because what this has done is to refocus the public view that on the sentiment that the Greens are running this government.
Shocking.
Well, I think it is, and I don't think that I don't think the Greens will get a bounce out of this. I think that there will be general repugnance across the community. The fact that Bob Brown and so forth will be.
Yeah, but I think it's worth remembering that it's not just the Greens. I think the Multi-Party Climate Change Committee was actually an excellent vehicle for getting something sorted out beyond the usual, you know, ballyhoo that goes on and sort of what we described as the battle. They actually sorted something through, and the Windsor and Oakeshott, when they decided to support Gillard, one of the key reasons they did was because of action on climate change.
You've got to remember that.
And don't forget, Piers, either, because I know you're at heart a Democrat, small d, that onshore processing is what the majority of Australians want, and the majority of Australians want something done about global warming. So the Greens are in line, roughly.
But this does nothing about global warming.
Well, that's another argument for another day.
Thank you, Chris.
More with our panel shortly. David Marr, Piers Ackerman and Fran Kelly. But now Mike Bowers and Talking Pictures.